You sought out wisdom and answers from God. He gave it to you and you obeyed. Everything's great, right? Wrong. Now you're the villain and someone else is hurt. You're starting to feel guilty and wondering if maybe you should compromise. Let's talk about why their pain is not your burden. Hey y'all, I'm Chay and welcome to the Chay Way. What is the Chay Way, you ask? It is when you are intentional about building the life that God designed for you, a life that you love, not one you want to run from. Today, we're going to continue building on our spiritual lives with lesson 3 of a 5-part series that I am calling The Wisdom Walk. Last week's devotional, we talked about how obeying God can make you the villain in someone else's story. We discussed Jeremiah, Elijah, Paul, and Silas, and how their unwavering faith and obedience to God led them to be beaten, thrown in jail, and sometimes running for their life. In our personal lives, that obedience can result in ending a relationship, setting a boundary, and sometimes just not meeting the expectations of others. Obedience to God can make other people feel hurt, rejected, confused, and downright angry. And it's natural for you to want to fix it. It's okay to be compassionate, but you don't really want to feel guilty because guilt could possibly lead to compromise and disobedience. So let's talk about the difference between the two. Compassion says, I see that you're hurting. Guilt says, it's my job to fix your hurt. You can absolutely acknowledge their emotions without apologizing for obedience, which then can result in compromise. So let's talk about one individual in the Bible who got a direct order from God, kind of sort of obeyed it in his own mind, but compromised in the consequences of his actions. We're going to roll right over to 1 Samuel chapter 15. Okay, so in this story, we have 2 main players. One is Samuel, he's a prophet, and King Saul, okay? I absolutely encourage you to read this in its entirety, but I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis, all right? So, King Saul is about to head into battle because Samuel got direct word from God that said, I need you to go down to the Amalekites and they need to be punished for what they did to the Israelites when they was on their way up out of Egypt. When you get down there, you need to destroy everything. That means everybody, everything. Everything. Okay? Those are his instructions. So, King Saul rolls down there, kills kind of everybody, but not really. Him and the soldiers decided to keep what they thought was good, and they killed what they thought was weak. So they found some sheep that looked nice. They kept some of those. They found some cows that looked nice. They kept some of those. And they even kept the king as hostage. Well, Samuel gets word from the Lord, and the Lord tells Samuel what King Saul did. Well, Samuel was not happy. He's so mad, in fact, that he is yelling about it all night to God. So the next day, Samuel goes to find Saul and finds out that he actually built a monument to honor himself. Arrogant much? When he finds Saul, Saul runs up to him like, blessed, hey Samuel, guess what? I did everything that the Lord told me to do. And Samuel said, oh really? If you did everything the Lord told you to do, why do I hear sheep bleating and cows mooing? Explain that, please. Saul's like, okay. See, what had happened was, okay, the soldiers, they saw some stuff that was really good, and so they wanted to keep it. But I did everything else that God said to do. I destroyed everything. Everything else, we destroyed it. Samuel was like, enough. I ain't trying to hear it. Don't play in my face, okay? You were small, and God anointed you king. And you gonna sit here and disobey him afterwards, after he gave you a direct order? He told you to go and destroy the wicked people and everything. Why didn't you obey? Saul was still protesting, okay? He blamed it on the soldiers. He was like, okay, see, they were the ones that wanted to keep everything. And they said, okay, we're going to keep all the best things and we're going to sacrifice this to God, right? That's what happened. Well, in verse 22 of 1 Samuel chapter 15, Samuel replied, "Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as obeying in the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance like the evil of idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king." Then Saul said to Samuel, "I have sinned. I violated the Lord's command and your instructions. I was afraid of the men, so I gave in to them." So Saul's compromise led to him getting stripped of his title as king. Now, there can be a few drivers for ending up compromising. It can be fear, like in the case of Saul, or it can be guilt. But you have to remember, you gotta stay firm. It's okay to be compassionate, be tender, but stand firm. So let's read Romans chapter 12, verse 18. "If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone." So, whomever these individuals are that are hurt, confused, and that have labeled you the villain, you can reach out to them, you can clarify for them, you can pray for them, but don't chase peace that's going to lead to compromise and disobedience. Their healing is between them and God, not you. So release yourself of the responsibility of carrying their pain. So let's go on over to John chapter 11. Again, I really encourage you to read this for yourself. There is so many good things to pull out of this particular chapter, but again, I'm just going to give you a synopsis. So, in this story, we have Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. Now, Mary and Martha are the two sisters whom Jesus visited, and Mary was the one that washed Jesus' feet with perfume and wiped and dried them with her hair. Okay? Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, Jesus loved them dearly. Well, Lazarus fell ill, and Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus to let him know, "Lord, the one you love has fallen ill." Now, when Jesus heard this, he actually stayed where he was for 2 more days. So he tells the apostles, okay, we're going to go back to Judea. Now, this is the same place that when he was there before, they tried to stone and kill him. So the apostles were just a little bit confused. Like, why are we going back? And Jesus told them, Lazarus is dead, basically, and we need to go back so that you can see and believe for yourself. By the time Jesus gets there, Lazarus has now been dead for 4 days. When Mary greets him, she says, "Lord, Lazarus is dead, but if you had been here, he would have not died." When Jesus gets to the house, he sees Martha there. She's weeping, crying. She's surrounded by other friends and family that are also upset and crying. And Martha says the same thing to him that Mary did. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not be dead." In verse 33 of John chapter 11, it says, "When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled." So Jesus asked, "Where have you laid him?" And they said, "Come and see." So he goes to the tomb. And this is where the famous line comes from, the shortest verse in the Bible, verse 35, Jesus wept. So he tells them to roll back the stone and calls Lazarus out, and Lazarus is raised from the dead. Again, I really, really, really encourage you to read this entire chapter. It's very powerful. There are a couple things that I would like to point out in this particular passage. Notice how when Jesus got word from the sisters that Lazarus was ill, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. That says to me, Jesus knew the plan, okay? He knew what God wanted him to do, and he decided already in that moment he was going to be obedient. He already knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. I'm sure he knew that that meant everybody was going to be upset, but he stayed where he was. He even let the apostles know, look, Lazarus is dead. I'm going to raise him up. You all need to see this, okay? You all need to see this so that you can believe. Plan settled, done. Obedience done, okay? The second thing that I find interesting is that Again, he already knew he was going to raise him from the dead, but when he got there and Lazarus had been dead for 4 days, he was still deeply moved and troubled in spirit by their grief. Jesus wept. Okay, we're not talking about crying. We're not talking about your eyes stinging and watering a little bit. We're talking about weeping. That is some deep, deep hurt. And it can be kind of surprising. It's like, you know you're going to raise him from the dead. So why would you be so upset when you literally about to tell the man to walk out of the tomb? And you know what's going to happen. So another person could be like, why would he cry? But that's the point, right? He still had compassion. Still had the compassion. You can understand that other people are hurting. And in this case, you can even hurt along with them. But it did not keep him from being obedient. And it did not keep him from compromising. But he was also not arrogant in this obedience because he still was deeply hurt by what he had to do and the results of his obedience, despite the fact that he knew a miracle was about to follow. Clearly, other people were hurt, crying. Some were confused. Like, okay, this is the same man that was healing the blind and doing all these other miracles. He could have kept this man from dying. Like, I'm lost. Like, why are we doing this? Yeah, Jesus absolutely had the power to heal Lazarus from where he was, but it wouldn't have been as impactful. Somebody being dead 4 days, 4 days, where the body is already starting to smell. You know it's not a trick, okay? That is without a doubt a miracle. His obedience led to a miracle. Otherwise, people could have just said it was a coincidence, right? No, he was sick, he got better. Or, y'all thought he was dead. He wasn't really dead. No, he was dead. Okay? 4 days. The obedience led to a miracle. Your obedience can lead to miracles too. And if you compromise, you might be interrupting a miracle for somebody else's life. God is still out here doing miracles. You might not see it. It might not be something like healing the blind. You might not ever see anything like that. But God is still doing miracles, and you want to make sure that you're not interrupting a miracle for somebody else, okay? Feel the moment, be compassionate, but move toward the miracle. Whatever that miracle is that God has in store, you let God worry about that. All you have to worry about is the obedience and the compassion. And just know that whatever obedience costs you, because it does come as a cost, right? God will restore it abundantly. Let's go to Mark chapter 10, verse 29 through 30. Again, we're back at the red letter. You know, I love my red letter text, okay? Verse 29 reads, "Truly I tell you," Jesus replied, "no one who has left home or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or fields for me in the gospel will fail to receive 100 times as much in the present age. Homes, brothers, sisters, mothers, children, and fields, along with persecutions, and in the age to come, eternal life." That right there tells you, okay, listen, your obedience to me, yes, it comes at a cost because it was included in there, and persecutions. He's going to let you know it's not all Gucci and gravy out here, okay, because you are obedient. You will have persecutions, but in this present life, I will give you 100 times what you lost, including eternal life. I mean, I ain't never got to get that good. Have you ever done one thing and got back 100 times something? I mean, only God can do that. Just your obedience is worth the reward. Yes, it comes at a cost, but eternal life is the reward. I'll take it, boo. So yes, being obedient to God can absolutely and often does make you the villain. Somebody's going to end up hurt, confused, feeling rejected, and or mad. Okay? It can make you feel guilty. It can make you scared. It can make you want to compromise. But you have to remember, it is not your burden to carry. Be compassionate. Understand their pain. But don't be guilty. Okay? It's not your job to fix it. It's not your job to fix it. You don't want to compromise. You can stay tender and understanding, talk to them, reflect with them, clarify with them if you can, but overall pray for them because that is between God and them, not you. You carried out your responsibility, which was to obey. When you do that and you don't compromise, what follows that is an amazing gift. You might not see it right away. It might not be instant, but you will get your just reward, especially when you make it a habit of obeying and not compromising. Understand that it comes at a cost. It can cost you relationships. It can cost you friends, family, significant others, but it is always, always worth it in the end. And we are even going to talk about next week a particular gift that comes pretty quickly that you might not expect. So, what I want to know from you guys is, have you ever obeyed God and then struggled with guilt because it really hurt someone else, someone that you really cared about? How did you handle it? Leave it in the comments below so we can talk about it. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this devotional today. Hope you come back next week so we can talk about that gift, honey, that you get right after the obedience that you might not expect. Remember to continue being intentional about the life that God is designing for you, because that's the Chay way.